Jake had never been this far from Earth before. The research station on Epsilon 9 was surrounded by jagged mountains and glowing rivers of liquid crystal that shimmered under the planet's pale sun. Even after a month of living there, the alien environment still felt strange and alive, almost like it was watching him. Every day brought a new wonder or a new question he could not answer. The alien life forms fascinated him, but nothing had prepared him for the note he found that morning. It was small, almost delicate, and slipped under his door like a whisper. The symbols on it twisted and curved in ways that made his head spin, but someone had carefully written a few English words among the strange characters. "Come, private learning." Jake stared at it for several minutes. His heart beat faster. Who had sent this? And what did they mean by private learning? The message was polite but strange. It carried curiosity and mystery in equal measure. For a moment, Jake thought about ignoring it. After all, alien customs were unpredictable. He had read the cultural manuals dozens of times, but the idea of entering someone's private space without clear permission terrified him. Still, a part of him, a very human part, was drawn toward it. Humans were explorers, problem solvers, risk-takers. Something inside him whispered that this was an opportunity he could not refuse. He walked down the long metallic hallway, the soft hum of the station vibrating beneath his feet. The note had no clear address, but instinct led him to a smaller, less visited wing of the station. The door in front of him was unlike the others, polished metal edged with soft blue lights that pulsed slowly. A strange warmth seemed to radiate from it. He paused, hand hovering over the handle. A sudden wave of nerves hit him, as though he were about to cross into another world entirely. Before he could second-guess himself, he inhaled deeply. Humans had a strange ability to push forward when fear tried to stop them. He touched the handle and felt a slight resistance, almost as if the door were alive and testing him. He pressed harder and it clicked open. A faint sound drifted out, a soft humming, musical but unstructured, like no instrument on Earth could produce. Jake's curiosity deepened. He stepped inside slowly, trying not to make noise. The room was bathed in a soft violet glow, light bending strangely around the corners. Jake could see smooth surfaces, floating devices, and tiny streams of colors moving in midair like living ribbons. But what made him stop in his tracks was the figure in the center of the room. She was unlike anything he had ever imagined. The alien girl had translucent skin that shimmered faintly, long tendrils floating around her head like living ribbons, and eyes that glowed gently in the dim light. She moved with a grace that made him catch his breath. She hadn't noticed him yet. She was focused, absorbed in something that looked like a floating holographic sphere. Her hands danced across it, producing shapes and colors that twisted and shifted in mesmerizing patterns. Jake felt a strange mixture of awe and guilt. He knew he had intruded. Humans had an instinct for understanding privacy, a sense of boundaries even in unfamiliar situations. And yet, he couldn't look away. Then she turned her head slightly, as if sensing something, and their eyes met. In that moment, Jake froze. There was no fear in her gaze, just a cautious curiosity. His own chest tightened, the air thick with tension. Every instinct told him to apologize and step back, but he was rooted to the spot, caught between awe and a profound human urge to connect. He realized then that humans had a strange power. Even in worlds full of beings more advanced or different than themselves, they could reach out, understand, and touch hearts in ways no other species could. That thought gave him courage. He whispered a soft apology, his voice shaking, hoping she would understand. Her eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger but in intrigue. The first spark of connection had formed. Jake had come to explore alien worlds, but he hadn't expected to explore the heart of one alien life form so quickly. He felt a strange warmth spread inside him, a mix of fear, wonder, and hope. Humans were strangers here, yet somehow in that moment, he felt the unique strength of being human, empathy, curiosity, and the courage to step into the unknown. This was only the beginning. Jake's heart pounded as he stepped fully into the room. The violet light cast shifting shadows across the walls, making everything feel both alive and unreal. The alien girl was still in the center, her delicate fingers moving over the holographic sphere, creating patterns that seemed to dance in midair. She had not yet noticed him completely, but her head tilted slightly, as if sensing his presence. Jake felt a sudden mix of excitement and dread. He had come to meet an alien to learn and explore, but now he realized he had walked in at the wrong moment, too suddenly, too personally. For a heartbeat, neither of them spoke. The soft hum of the floating devices filled the air, and Jake could feel his pulse in his ears. He tried to smile, but it felt awkward, weak. The alien girl paused, her glowing eyes meeting his, and Jake felt the weight of her gaze. She wasn't angry, but she was clearly surprised, and there was a hint of caution in her posture. Every human instinct in Jake screamed for him to step back, to apologize, to retreat before he caused offense. But curiosity, and something deeper, more human, held him in place. Slowly he raised a hand in a gesture meant to show peace. I'm sorry," he said softly, voice trembling slightly. "I didn't mean to intrude." His words were simple, but the sincerity in them seemed to carry across the silent space. The alien girl's eyes softened just a fraction, though her expression remained unreadable. She tilted her head again, studying him, trying to understand him. Jake realized that he was seeing something rare, a creature entirely unlike him, yet capable of recognizing intent, emotion, and honesty. Humans had an unusual ability to connect across barriers, to reach out even when everything about a situation was strange and unfamiliar. After a tense moment, the alien girl finally spoke, or rather, a soft series of musical tones filled the air. Jake had no idea what they meant, but the cadence felt almost like a question, as if she were asking why he was here. He swallowed and gestured toward himself, then to her, trying to communicate without words. "Jake," he said slowly, I want to learn." The alien girl seemed to consider this. Her glowing eyes blinked rhythmically, almost like stars flickering. Then she made a slight movement with one of her floating tendrils, pointing toward a small platform in the corner of the room. Jake stepped closer, careful not to make sudden movements. Each step felt weighted, significant. He realized that humans had a kind of courage other species often didn't, an instinct to step forward, even when every signal warned of danger or misunderstanding. And this courage, combined with empathy, allowed him to bridge a gap that might otherwise have remained impossible. The alien girl returned to her holographic device, but this time she didn't seem bothered by Jake's presence. Slowly, Jake crouched near the platform and observed her work. The sphere pulsed and twisted, projecting images and colors that made his eyes water with awe. Each motion she made was precise and beautiful, and he could see the intelligence and emotion behind it. It was private, personal work, yet she allowed him to watch without protest. For a long time, they simply existed in the same space, separate yet connected. Jake realized that he didn't need to speak the alien language to understand her. Every small gesture, every tilt of her head, every shift in light conveyed meaning. Humans had a unique strength in this. The ability to feel and interpret emotion, to connect without needing words, to offer trust and receive it in return. Finally, the alien girl paused and looked directly at him again. There was a new softness in her expression, a quiet acceptance. Jake felt a warmth inside himself, a spark of hope. He had stepped into her private world by accident, but instead of pushing him away, she had allowed him in tentatively, cautiously, but willingly. And in that small, glowing room on Epsilon 9, Jake realized the first truth of being human. Empathy could cross even the vastest divides of species and culture. The room was silent except for the soft hum of floating devices and the faint ripple of colored light dancing across the walls. Jake felt a strange tension pressing down on him. He had entered the alien girl's private space, and though she had not shown anger, he could sense her unease. Humans could feel the weight of a moment like this. Every second seemed amplified, every gesture heavy with meaning. Jake shifted slightly, careful not to break the fragile connection forming between them. The alien girl finally broke the silence, though not in words he could understand. Her voice, or the melodic tones that came from her, was soft, almost questioning, like a stream of music. Jake had learned to recognize intent beyond language. The way she moved, the subtle tilts of her head, the gentle pulse of her glow, they all said, "Who are you? Why are you here? Can I trust you?" Humans had a unique ability to respond to questions without words, to meet the emotion behind a tone rather than the literal meaning. Jake swallowed hard. He wished he could explain everything, why he had come, why he had opened the door, but words felt inadequate. Instead, he knelt slowly, lowering himself to her level, a gesture he hoped would show respect. I didn't mean to disturb you," he said softly. "I just wanted to learn to understand. Please forgive me." His voice trembled slightly, but there was sincerity in every word. Humans could communicate honesty in ways even the most logical alien mind could sense. The alien girl paused, her luminous eyes narrowing then softening. She tilted her head, studying him. For several long seconds she said nothing. Jake felt the weight of her gaze, and he realized how different trust could feel in an alien mind. On Earth, humans had instincts for reading emotion through tiny cues, body language, tone, expression. Here on Epsilon 9, those instincts worked in ways he hadn't imagined, bridging a gap between species. He sensed her curiosity, beginning to outweigh her caution. Then unexpectedly, the alien girl extended one of her long, delicate tendrils toward him. It hovered just above his hand. Jake froze. The gesture was simple, almost tentative, yet it carried enormous significance. In her world, gestures might hold meaning humans could barely imagine. But Jake felt it in his chest. This was an offering, a cautious invitation. He placed his hand gently beneath hers, careful not to touch roughly. It was a small act, but in that moment it spoke louder than any words. Time seemed to stretch. Colors from the holographic devices swirled around them, reflecting in Jake's eyes. He felt an unusual warmth, a human warmth spreading through him. There was a strange beauty in being accepted, even partially, into someone else's private space. Humans had an instinctive understanding of emotional boundaries, a mix of courage and respect that allowed them to connect without forcing intimacy. He realized that this was the rarest kind of connection, one that required patience, empathy, and a willingness to be vulnerable. Suddenly, the holographic sphere shifted violently, sending arcs of light shooting across the room. The alien girl flinched instinctively, and Jake reacted without thinking, stepping forward to shield her from the blinding flashes. He felt the heat of the light brush past him, but he didn't move back. Humans often acted first to protect, guided by instinct and empathy rather than logic. The girl looked at him wide-eyed, and for the first time, a flicker of trust and relief crossed her features. When the sphere stabilized, they both exhaled, though neither spoke. Jake understood then that actions often said more than words. In that room, filled with alien colors and strange technology, a silent bond had formed. She was still cautious, still holding some part of herself back, but he had proven in a small way that humans could be allies in understanding, protectors even when nothing was expected in return. For the first time since arriving on Epsilon 9, Jake felt something powerful stir inside him. Pride, not of dominance or skill, but of empathy and courage. Humans had the ability to connect, to bridge gaps others might never cross. In that awkward, tense silence, a spark had ignited, and both of them knew their worlds had changed. Forever. Days passed after that first tense encounter, and Jake found himself returning to the violet-lit room almost every evening. He always knocked first, his human habit of respecting privacy guiding him, but each time the alien girl allowed him to enter, even if only for a short while. She never spoke in words he could understand, yet communication blossomed in ways that transcended language. Jake discovered that humans had a subtle power, the ability to connect through attention, patience, and presence alone. At first, their interactions were cautious. The alien girl would move her hands across the floating holographic spheres, creating patterns of light that danced and shimmered. Jake would sit quietly nearby, observing, careful not to interrupt. He could feel her focus, her intent, her emotions, though not in words. It was like seeing a world through someone else's eyes, a world of color, thought, and sensation that explanation. Humans had an unusual ability to perceive these subtleties, to read emotion and respond with empathy. Jake realized that this was one of humanity's greatest strengths. One evening, the alien girl directed him to a smaller, glowing orb that hovered just above the floor. Tentatively, Jake reached out, and the moment his fingers brushed its surface, a flood of images and feelings surged into his mind. He saw her childhood on her home planet, vast crystalline forests, oceans that shimmered like liquid light, and creatures that moved with elegant precision. He felt her joy, her curiosity, and even the loneliness she had carried, being the first of her kind sent to the station for study. Jake's breath caught. He had never experienced anything like this. She watched him carefully, her luminous eyes reflecting both wonder and caution. Jake realized she was testing him, not for strength, not for intelligence, but for understanding. Humans had the capacity to meet emotional tests with patience and sincerity, even when they could not comprehend the full context. He closed his eyes and focused on the feelings flooding him, letting empathy guide his response rather than logic. Slowly, the tension in the room eased. She relaxed slightly, allowing him closer to the orb. From that moment, a pattern emerged. Every day she shared more of herself, fragments of her thoughts, visions of her planet, and abstract expressions that he learned to interpret. Jake responded with small gestures of kindness, mimicking her movements or using simple drawings and sounds to communicate. She seemed fascinated by his persistence and his willingness to learn. He realized something vital about humans: the ability to build bridges not through technology or superiority, but through care, patience, and attention to another being's needs. One afternoon, while they worked together, the orb projected a new scene, a memory of her watching other alien species interacting, often without understanding or empathy. She had observed how the others struggled to connect across differences. Humans, however, were different. Jake could feel that realization emanating from her, the quiet recognition that humanity's greatest strength was the heart, not the mind alone. For the first time, she hesitated before moving, seeming to weigh whether he could be trusted fully. Jake offered a small, encouraging smile. The warmth of human intention, he felt, could reach even the most cautious of hearts. By the time evening descended on the station, the alien girl had shifted her gaze to him, her glowing eyes softer now, filled with a fragile trust. Jake sat on the floor beside the orb, feeling an emotion he had never anticipated: connection. It was not friendship in the human sense, not yet. It was a bond deeper than words, forged from understanding, patience, and empathy. Humans had a remarkable ability to forge such bonds, even with beings whose very existence challenged the limits of imagination. Jake realized something that night as he left the room, careful not to disturb the fragile peace. Being human meant more than curiosity or intelligence. It meant the ability to reach across barriers, to touch hearts, and to build trust without demanding it. He understood that this bond, growing silently between him and the alien girl, was proof of humanity's rare gift. And in that quiet moment, walking down the violet-lit hallways of Epsilon 9, he felt a pride that was neither boastful nor arrogant, but deeply and profoundly human. Weeks passed, and the alien girl slowly began to trust Jake more openly. The violet-lit room no longer felt like a place of tension. Instead, it had transformed into a space of discovery, shared curiosity, and quiet companionship. Jake learned to read her movements, the subtle changes in her glow, and the rhythm of her musical tones. He discovered that humans had a special ability: the instinct to notice emotion, even when it was hidden behind alien gestures or strange patterns. This skill allowed him to connect with her in ways that no other species had managed. Each day, she allowed him a little closer to her work. Sometimes, she let him manipulate the floating holographic spheres under her careful guidance. He would create shapes and colors that she had never imagined, and she would respond with soft, melodic tones that seemed almost like laughter. Jake felt a thrill of pride, not pride born from accomplishment, but from connection, proof that human empathy and creativity could reach across the most alien of boundaries. Humans could touch hearts in ways no machine, no weapon, no technology could replicate. One evening, a moment of unexpected vulnerability changed everything. The alien girl had been working in silence when the orb flickered and projected a memory of her home planet. In it, a group of her kin stared at her with disapproval, a memory that carried a subtle ache of loneliness and exclusion. She paused mid-motion, her glow dimming slightly. Jake noticed instantly. Humans were sensitive to subtle emotional shifts, and he understood the moment she needed reassurance more than instruction. He reached slowly and placed a hand near hers, not touching, just close enough to show he was present. The alien girl's eyes softened, and she extended one of her tendrils to hover near his hand. It was a gesture of trust, tentative but unmistakable. Jake smiled gently, feeling warmth spread through him. He realized that human empathy could heal, even across species, and even when words were impossible. They sat together for hours, sharing silence that felt heavier with meaning than any conversation could. In that quiet, the walls of their differences began to crumble. Over the next days, their bond grew in unexpected ways. She began inviting him into her world of creativity, showing him intricate patterns, sounds, and sequences that no human mind could have invented alone. Jake responded with patience and encouragement, teaching her about earthly music, rhythm, and color theory, using simple sketches and gestures. Each exchange was a careful negotiation of trust. The alien girl's fascination with human ingenuity became apparent. She seemed to marvel at the idea that a human, alone and without advanced technology, could still inspire, teach, and connect. One day, while observing a new pattern she had created, the alien girl paused and turned toward him. For a moment, Jake felt the full weight of her gaze, curious, searching, almost questioning. Then she produced a small glowing fragment from the orb, hovering it in front of him. It was as if she was sharing a piece of herself, a symbol of acceptance. Jake reached out carefully, letting it rest in his palm. A wave of warmth and understanding coursed through him. Humans had the unique ability to honor trust, to recognize gifts of emotion and respond in kind, forming bonds deeper than language could convey. Jake realized then that their relationship had grown beyond curiosity or study. It had become something rare, a bridge of understanding that neither species could take lightly. In this alien girl, he had found not only fascination but also connection, a chance to show what humans were truly capable of: empathy, courage, patience, and the ability to reach across even the widest divides. The moment was simple, yet powerful. By the time Jake left the violet-lit room that evening, he felt a profound sense of human pride, not pride in himself, but in what humans could give to others: trust, understanding, and the courage to care. Even on a distant planet filled with wonders and dangers beyond imagination, the simple human ability to connect, to nurture, and to understand had created something extraordinary, a bond that would change both their lives forever. It had been a quiet week on the station, and Jake felt comfortable in the alien girl's violet-lit room. Their bond had grown steadily, but the calm was broken suddenly by the sharp blare of alarms echoing through the corridors. Red lights flashed violently, and a low vibration ran underfoot. The station's main systems were failing. Jake's instincts kicked in immediately, honed from years of human problem-solving and quick action. He knew this was not a drill. He looked at the alien girl, whose eyes widened in fear. Her protective shield, the energy field that kept her safe in her private workspace, was flickering, weakening. She had never experienced danger outside her control, and the fear in her luminous gaze was palpable. Humans had a special courage, a willingness to act even when the odds were uncertain, driven by empathy and a desire to protect. Without hesitation, Jake rushed forward. He knew he could not allow harm to come to her, no matter how alien or unknown she was. The alien girl tried to move, but her tendrils brushed against malfunctioning devices, sending arcs of light across the room. The holographic spheres spun wildly, threatening to collide. Jake reached for her hand, gripping it gently but firmly. "Stay with me," he said. His voice was calm, even though his heart pounded. Humans had a remarkable ability to stay composed in crises, and his steady presence immediately seemed to calm her. She squeezed his hand back, a silent acknowledgement of trust, and allowed him to guide her toward a safer part of the room. Together, they worked to stabilize the systems. Jake had no training in alien technology, but humans were naturally adaptable. He observed, experimented carefully, and followed patterns with logic and intuition. The alien girl hovered near him, offering subtle gestures that helped guide his actions. For the first time, she depended fully on a human's abilities. Jake realized that humans had a unique power in moments like this. The combination of courage, quick thinking, and empathy could make them indispensable allies, even to beings far more advanced. Suddenly, a surge of energy knocked several floating devices across the room. The alien girl stumbled, her shield flickering dangerously. Without thinking, Jake lunged, catching her before she fell. The warmth of her trust pressed into him like a fragile flame. Humans could act without hesitation, driven by instinct to protect, and he felt that instinct burning stronger than ever. She clutched his arm tightly, and he felt an emotional connection deeper than anything he had imagined. In that instant, their bond became unbreakable. After tense minutes that felt like hours, they managed to stabilize the energy field. The room settled into calm and the alarms silenced, leaving only the soft violet glow of the lights. Jake leaned back against the wall, breathing hard. The alien girl stood beside him, her tendrils trembling slightly, but her eyes were no longer wide with fear. Instead, they reflected something new: trust, respect, and perhaps a growing admiration. Humans, she seemed to understand, could be courageous in ways no alien species could always manage. She extended a tendril and touched his shoulder lightly, a gesture he had come to recognize as a sign of gratitude and connection. Jake smiled, feeling a warmth he could not explain. Human empathy, bravery, and willingness to risk themselves for others were qualities that transcended language, species, and culture. He had proven, in action rather than words, that humans could inspire trust and loyalty even in the most alien hearts. That night, as Jake left the violet-lit room, he glanced back at her. She was watching him silently, her glow soft and steady, no longer flickering with fear. For the first time, he truly understood what humans could offer: courage without expectation, protection without reward, and empathy without boundaries. Even in a galaxy filled with unimaginable wonders and dangers, human hearts could shine brightly. And in that moment, Jake knew their connection would endure, no matter what the stars might bring. Days had passed since the alarm and system failure, yet the memory of it still lingered in Jake's mind. Every time he thought of the alien girl's fear and her reliance on him, a quiet pride stirred inside him. Humans had a strange power, not one of strength or speed, but of courage, empathy, and understanding. Even here, on a distant planet with beings far older and wiser than humanity, those qualities mattered more than any technology or knowledge. They could reach places no one else could. That evening, Jake approached her room, his steps careful but eager. The violet light spilled softly across the corridor, just as it always did, bathing the space in a gentle, almost magical glow. When he entered, she was waiting near the floating holographic spheres, her luminous eyes reflecting both curiosity and a calm that had only come after their shared trials. She tilted her head, as if to say, "Are you ready?" Jake nodded, and she motioned toward the platform where they had shared so many moments of learning and trust. He joined her, and for a while they simply existed in silence. The room felt alive with unspoken understanding. Jake marveled at the alien girl's confidence in letting him be there, sharing this space with her without hesitation. Humans had the rare ability to earn trust through small, consistent actions: respect, patience, and care. That trust had taken time to build, but now it shone between them like a fragile bridge spanning an unfathomable distance. The alien girl produced a small glowing fragment from one of the spheres, a pattern she had been shaping carefully. She extended it toward Jake. His heart swelled. This was no ordinary gesture. It was a gift of trust, a recognition of his role in her world. Jake accepted it gently, careful not to disturb it. He realized once again that humans had the ability to honor such gestures, to respond to emotion with care, and to create connections that lasted beyond immediate circumstance. He smiled at her, and she responded with a soft series of musical tones. Though he could not understand the words, he understood the meaning. There was respect, gratitude, and something more subtle, an acknowledgement that humans could be different. Humans could act with courage without expecting reward, connect with others without needing similarity, and bridge divides that seemed insurmountable. That was the true human difference. For a moment they looked at each other in quiet reflection. Jake's mind drifted back to the moment he had first entered this violet-lit room, unsure, hesitant, and filled with nervous curiosity. He had walked in by accident, unprepared, and yet here he was, a trusted presence in her private world. Humans had the power to turn accidents into connections, missteps into understanding, and moments of fear into lasting bonds. He felt that same warmth now deep in his chest, a mixture of pride, wonder, and hope. The alien girl's gaze softened even more, and she let her tendrils rest gently near him. It was as if she were saying, "I trust you, and I will remember this." Jake nodded silently, understanding that this was not just a personal victory. It was proof of something far greater. Humans had an ability to reach beyond themselves, to touch hearts, and to leave a lasting mark on worlds and lives that might never otherwise know them. As he finally rose to leave, Jake felt a profound sense of purpose. Humans were not the strongest or the most advanced species in the galaxy, but they possessed something rare: the courage to act with empathy, the patience to learn, and the heart to connect. Even on a distant planet, even with beings whose very existence challenged imagination, human qualities could shine brighter than any technology or weapon. He stepped back into the corridor, glancing once more at the alien girl, who watched him silently but without fear. A quiet pride filled him, deep and steady. He realized that what humans offered the galaxy was not domination or control, but understanding, protection, and a willingness to care. In that moment on Epsilon 9, Jake understood the full meaning of humanity, the ability to change the universe, not through power but through heart. And in the quiet violet light of that alien room, a bond had been forged that neither species would ever forget, a testament to the extraordinary strength and beauty of being human.